Okay, so I'm gonna record this conversation and I'm gonna put this into something new. And I'm sure for the people that are just hearing it for the first time, this I guess is quote unquote part two. And we were discussing, I'm gonna be blunt with them. We were discussing about volume forecast, and he was being very nice. He was asking like, you know what, I want to ask you off the record because I don't want to put you on the spot, volume forecast and things like that. And my answer was like I told him, I'm like, there's people just track a lot of statistics and they say, um, based on the float, a certain time, this one should do this much volume. If it's overperforming that, underperforming it, other people use a multiplier based on pre-market or based on the first hour of volume. And I was just saying that in our life, in everything, we often feel that if I can figure this out, if I have a car, if I have a girlfriend, or if I have a volume forecast, or if I can see all the SEC filings, warrants, and I'm able to read it, I will fix my trading. And they have merits, but at the end of the day, a lot of it, the number one problem is working on ourselves, working on our risk management. And there's a lot of guys that trade small caps that don't have that knowledge, but the risk management is good and their their context is good. So you could have there's a lot of fundamental people. I am being very open and blunt. I like to think, and I actually kind of know without kind of noticing, I am with very, very good fundamental traders. And in the past 9 years or so, I've seen a lot of them, people blow up, a lot of strong fundamental traders. So it's all about context. What's the volume doing? What's the risk? That stuff is a lot more important. And yeah, what was I saying? I think that's very, very much more important. And one thing else that I'm gonna say, so when I asked you about TraderView, I don't know if you heard it in my voice, but my heart's just like, oh, shoot. If you don't mind me asking, are you struggling with a little bit with trading?
Uh, I would say I'm
I would
about
say I'm
break
about
even.
break even.
I'm always
I'm
going
always going
above and
above
then
and
I'll
then
go
I'll
right
go
back
right back
under.
under.
I would say I'm
I would say
about
I'm
break
about
even.
break
But
even.
I've been
But
break
I've been
even
break even
for
for
again, I've been
I've
trading
been
for
trading
three
for three
years
years
on and
off.
off. So for
So
me,
for me,
break
break
even
even
over the long
over the
course
long
of three
course of
years,
3 years,
it's
it's
frustrating
frustrating
because
because
It shouldn't
I
be
feel like
I
I
feel
haven't
like
frustrating.
I
made
haven't made
progress
progress
almost in a
almost in
way
a way
And that's the
over
thing,
three
bro.
over
years.
3 years.
That's the thing. Like when you told me that you don't have TraderView, like my heart kind of sunk. And I'm telling you this as a friend to friend, even though we just met, because I can relate, bro. I've like the reason why I'm
Yeah.
doing this is because I've but the amount of shitty things that I went through in my life, I went through fucking living hell. Like a few years ago, like I was like mad, like I was depressed. I'm a very I have a good head on my shoulders. I was very mentally strong, but like I was like depressed and suicidal because I went through some really fucked up shit. So what you're doing, bro, is you're trying to figure out if I can, and everybody's like that. It's like the shiny object thing. It's like you, if I get this, I'll break even. You need to work on yourself. You need to work on your historical behavior, your risk management. Yo, you don't have a choice. I'm very like lean and chill. You have to do TraderView. Like right after this conversation, you need to open a freaking account. It's free and import all your trades there, man. You have to. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
If you have to pay silver, bro, pay silver. Like I'm telling you, BAM SEC and that you have to pay. I hope they freaking pay me for sponsor because God knows nobody's gonna pay for this YouTube crap stuff. I'm not gonna make jack shit out of this, but it doesn't matter. You have to, bro. You don't like you have a decent understanding enough. Know the context, man, and work on your risk management and understand where you're going wrong. Me, my cats, anybody else, we all know what our issues are. For some people, it's risk management. For some people, it's over trading. Some people, it's under trading. Some people, not letting work. We all have something. That's what we need to work on, bro. It's not, and knowing things in context. So what I was saying earlier is there's a lot of fundamental people that I know that have taken a big hit and that have like stopped trading because of it. And I have blown so many accounts. I've probably blown 6, 7, 9 accounts in my time, and thankfully they were small. And so that's you have to do that. You have to go um, open a trader view, recap on your behavior, see what you're doing right, categorize your trades. What's your average winner? What's your average loser? That's what you should really, really work on.
Yeah.
Anything else? Feel free to ask me off the record on there. As long as you're cool with it, I don't care. Like I don't care. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually
actually,
one
one
question
question
I
I
thought of
thought
right
of
now
right now
okay.
is
is
so
so
I
I
see
see
I
I
didn't
didn't
realize that
realize that
whenever you
whenever you
posted your
posted your
charts
charts
on Twitter
on
and you
Twitter
would
and you would
box the
box the
trades,
trades,
I never
I never
realized that
realized
that
that
was
that
like
was
one
like
full
one full
position,
position,
and then
and then the
the
second the
next
next
box
box
comes or the
or the
box
box
ends,
ends,
that means
that
that
means
you're
that
out
you're
of the
out of the
position.
position.
Yes.
Now I
Now I
understand that
understand that
you
you
only
only
add
add
to
to
winners,
winners.
Mm.
so
So
I'm
I'm
assuming when the
assuming when the
boxes,
boxes,
I
I
get,
get, let me
think
think
of
of
how
how
to
to
best
best
phrase the
phrase the
question.
question.
Yeah, okay. Take your time. No rush.
I
I
guess
guess
it looks
it
like your
looks like your
ads are
ads are
really
really
close
close
together.
together.
Where
Where
I guess in
in
my, I'm
my,
not
I'm
sure
not
if
sure
this
if
is
this is
if I'm
if I'm
understanding it
understanding it
correctly, but
correctly,
it
but it
seems like
seems like
because your
because your
ads
ads
look
look
that like
that
they're
like
so
they're so
close to
close
each
to
other,
each
it
other,
looks
it
like
looks
you're
like you're
adding at
adding at
basically the
basically the
same
same
spot as
spot as
opposed
opposed
to
to
when
when
the
the
resistance
resistance
or the
or the
support
support
breaks and
breaks
then
and then
that
that
support
support
turns
turns
into
into
new
new
resistance.
resistance.
It's a good
Would you
Would you
be
question.
be
adding
adding
there,
there,
or
or
I
I
feel like
feel like
that
that
sounds like it
sounds
would
like it
bring
would
your
bring your
average
average
down
down
That's
too
too
much.
much.
that's a very, very good question. And by the way, again, the trading, if if you were to sit beside me and you were to mimic everything that I do, it may not work for you. So, but that's a very good question, and I think I understand. I'll rephrase your question and you tell me if I understood it. So, the way my ads are, the first one, it's like, what the hell? It's like you added to a loser. It went above your average, or it went below your average, right? Like that
Right.
was
Right,
And
and
it
it
also
also
looks
looks
like
like
it's
it's
all
all
right
right
next to
next
each
to each
other
other
to the
to the
point
point
where
where
it's like
it
it
looks
one
looks
like you're
like
entry
you're
at
adding
adding
to
to
the
once.
the
same
same
Yeah,
average.
average.
like
It,
one
like you might
Like you
as
might as
well
well
did it
just
once.
put it
put
all
it
in
all
one
in one
order,
order
Exactly. That's a very,
because it
very
because
looks
it
good
like
looks
you're
question.
like you're
adding at the
adding at
same
the same
exact spot
exact spot
almost.
almost.
Yes, that's a very, very, very good question. And so the first thing to keep in mind is in that first order, when I mentioned earlier in the conversation, it was uh, I always, when I'm trading well, I always have a risk level. So, what is the benefit? So, this is like a whole different not an argument, a whole different topic that we could talk about. Whether you should have multiple entries or you should have just one entry and go and boom, get it there. And Stan Guzman is somebody whom I really admire, adore, is a trader um, I respect, and a lot of other traders that I respect, they have multiple entries. So, regardless of where my entries are, bro, relatively, because of my mindset as a trader, who I am as a person, is first off, I have to have a risk level if I'm performing well. So, at the first entry, if we can see, if you have my execution up, I was risking, technically, at first time, I was risking uh, off of 311.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my size, so sometimes each of those arrows doesn't matter. Like this was my normal size. Like I wasn't uncomfortable size. So the way my trading style is, I let it go over and under a little bit because my size is not a lot, right? Um, so what happens? What's the benefit? Like, why don't I do one? Because sometimes if I enter once, twice, I just feel good and better. Like once I'm in the money and it comes against me, I can easily cut it off. My weakness is, bro, I'm being vulnerable here, is I sometimes, uh, either because of my conviction or just my problems or my mindset, the way I'm wired, is I have a hard time, like, like I have a hard time once it goes against me. I'm like, but I always have a risk level to risk against. Um, so even if it looks like I'm adding lower, higher, etc., sometimes if it rips, I don't have my full size, and I could just be like, oh, it's whatever. But if I feel like it's working, an example is if I hit this once and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, oh, 310, that's it. But sometimes if I put a little bit on and then it goes boom, 311, 312, I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Like, my losses are small. But if it goes down, let's say let's talk about a scenario where the ads don't add up to the same level and it adds below, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what the fuck? Like, if it this instantly washes to like weave up, like what do you do? So then I wouldn't really add. I would just like cover some, and then when it pops, and then I'll start adding there. But it makes me, my personality, it puts me calmer. Stan Guzman said the same thing, and I think somebody else in the interview said, even though I've been trading for a long time, bro, I listen to guys all the time. Podcast, walking, I always try to learn from other people. And that's why I'm trying to give back, because, I don't know, I struggled a lot too. So it just
Yeah.
helps me with my risk management. I'm not very good at one hit here, one hit go, especially with manipulated stocks. Because if I do that, like, this is what I would have done. Like, if I had shorted it, I may have shorted like 286, 289, and then I would be like, okay, 310 as a risk. One hit enter, one hit exit. Would have stopped
Yeah.
out. It went above to 421, and then I would have probably shorted 293, and then I would have been like, okay, 420 as risk, and then I would have stopped out there, like what the fuck, and then they would have washed out. It would have driven me freaking crazy, right?
Right.
So multiple entries has made me really, really, really beneficial. Has been really beneficial. And if you want to
How
try,
many? How do you
How
like
do
to
you like
break
to
your
break your
positions
positions
into like
into
one
like one
tenth
tenth
size,
size
and then
and then
10,
10,
basically
basically
10
10
ads for
ads
full
for full
size, or
size, or
do you like
do you
to
like to
go
go
fifths
fifths
and
in
fifths, so
fifths,
like
so
one
like one
fifths, or
fifths, or
so that's a very good. And I had this discussion with a lot of the guys, and they always tell me this weird ass answer. I get annoyed. I'm like, just fucking tell me the direct answer. Stop beating around the fucking bush. Just tell me the fucking way you do. Just stop. So, but uh, and I hate to be like that. So usually, I've tried to do it. So Mike Katz was an individual. Mad shout out to Mike Katz. I don't know if you follow him.
I
I
do
do
not,
not,
but
but
Oh,
I
I
you
will.
should.
will.
I'll put his Twitter right here. If anybody else, he's an amazing guy. Like very very beneficial. He's the owner. You've heard of 7 Points Capital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the owner, I think, or he's one of the
Okay.
Okay.
something. Yeah, that's him, Mike Katz. Sorry, I got the chat. So you were asking enter. Okay, so I asked everybody. They pissed me off with their answers, even though they're my friends and they don't mean to. Um, so Mike Katz put it really nicely, where it's like a mean reversion versus a trend. So how do I break my size? If it's a mean reversion, which means like a failed follow through, ideally I want to hit it. I want to hit it with a lot of tests because I won't get in a lot of opportunity, right?
Right.
Like at that last one, like I didn't have a hotkey. Like for me, it was a bit normal. Like it was actually quite a bit normal, more than my size that I use. I always have two level twos, and I just hit it, entered it. And but if it's a trend, like if I'm adding to winner, it pops up. Then it fluctuates. So to answer your question, how do you break it down? If it is a reversion, or if you are shorting a spike risking off the other, you want to put less entries on.
Right.
Whereas if you think something will have a really long, um, uh, long play, like example, are you watching the you have the 5 minute chart up still?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So believe it or not, a large portion of the times, if I was watching this, because the guys on voice were telling me to short this, and I was like, I don't want to look at it until 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Stop, stop, stop. But they kept talking, and and 100% it's not my fault. By the way, I'm not blaming them. But long story short, I would have longed it. So in this case, SNCA, look at 11:35 ish. At that time, I would have longed a little bit, risking off of low, and the next pull I would have added a bit more. So
Yeah.
in this, let's say if you wanted to do 1,000 share hypothetically. So in here, it's all about risk. So for me, if this was like 225, I'd have been like, okay, well, I'm risking potentially 195 or something like that, or what is this, 215? Like my eyes have problems. 215, yeah, 215. I would risk 195, and then I would add a little, and here I would add more. Um, so this one I would scale into if my thought process was that the odds of this is gonna break the high of the day. I wouldn't be sure. Um, Whereas if something had followed through, a breakthrough, like at another example, which let's look at 10, oh, it's like 10:30. You see that wick candle?
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yep.
wick
I
red
follow.
candle? Yep, I follow. That one there, I would have theoretically, we should be putting on full size or and one or two hits, depending on your comfort level. So
I
I'm
see.
referencing
Okay.
when do you use one or two versus when do you hit with multiple entries. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. So oftentimes a bit of uncertainty, unflexible. That's when you do. There, you hit. Oh, this guy here, Mia. This guy's a really good guy too. So he is amazing. Check. Okay. I'll send you this on Discord. This may help. Uh, so he
So
is.
for
So for
longer plays, you like to break
you
it
like to break it
into
into
how many parts? Like 10?
like 10. Nah, I would say 5, 6 has been my comfort level. Yeah.
I see.
I
Okay.
see. Okay. So
Cool.
look at his stream.
Cool.
12:45. He just hits it full size and then he covers full size. He trades different than I do.
Yeah.
He, yeah. But that's so it's just if it's a trend join, you can slowly scale in like 5, 6, whatever you're comfortable with. If it's mean reversion, if I don't feel fully comfortable, I'll like slowly scale in. Uh, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. No,
Awesome.
that
Yeah,
helps
no,
so
that
much.
helps so
Thank you
much.
again.
Thank you again. No problem. Any other questions? I'm happy to help. Let me know.
No, no,
No,
that
no,
is
that is
everything.
everything. What
Yep.
is that last? What is it? Last call, final, or something? I don't know. My brain's tired too. All right, brother.
Oh
I'm happy
no,
to.
we are
No, we
good.
are
We're
good.
set.
We're
Thank you.
set. Thank you. All right, happy to hear that. Thank you very much for coming on voice, and yeah, hopefully, click like, click subscribe, and share if this helped you. So, all
All right.
right,
Bye.
bye, brother. Have a wonderful day. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
too. Bye. Thank you.